Welcome to Astrology Heals, a podcast that brings you messages of hope and healing from the planets. I'm your host, Marina Ormes, author and founder of Astrology Heals. I'm an evolutionary and transformational astrologer of over 30 years. My purpose is to help you live your authentic truth with clarity, courage, and creative power. We've been looking in these podcast episodes at some of the outer planet energies and how they define our times. We've looked at outer planets changing signs from 2023 to 2026. We've looked at an outer planet triangle that lasts from 2024 to 2029. That becomes a very potent cradle alignment in July 2026. We've looked at Jupiter's role in helping us step into our leadership, Jupiter in Leo as the fourth point of the cradle. We've looked at the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, the beginning of a new 35-year period of developing and cultivating new beginnings. In today's episode, I want to take a look specifically at Pluto in Aquarius and Pluto's role in these unfolding events. How it can speak to our courageous path of authenticity and leadership, and how we can learn more about who we are with Pluto in Aquarius. We're going to talk today about intelligence and artificial intelligence, human intelligence, and how to think about what is shifting and changing. We have Pluto, the planet of truth, power, depth. Pluto, the planet of death and rebirth. It takes us deep. It takes us into the place where things are most real, most honest. It leads us into a process of transformation. Pluto, of course, has to do with power, and it can be the way that we use power, whether that is power over one another, power to control or overwhelm or get what we want, the power to make others do what we want, or it can be that transformation process by which we step into a new, better version of ourselves, just like a snake that sheds its skin and steps into the next stage of life. It has to release its old identity and step into a new way of being. Another metaphor for Plutonian transformation is, of course, the caterpillar going through its metamorphosis to transform from its old body, literally its old body, to be reborn into a new, completely different being, a butterfly, right? So that is the Plutonian death and rebirth process. Pluto is the great transformer. It helps us to clear away what we no longer are, what we no longer need, what is no longer meaningful in our lives, and helps us step into the liminal space. And the liminal space is the space that occurs between death and rebirth. It's that moment when the caterpillar is in the cocoon and completely liquefies, right? That is liminal. Liminal is when you have let go of the old, but you have not yet become the new. Pluto is about where we must let go of the old without yet becoming the new, or knowing what that new phase will bring, or how it's going to take shape, what it's going to look like. And so it's definitely not comfortable. And anyone who has given birth or been around someone giving birth knows it's not easy. But Pluto takes us to the depths. It's the underworld. It's that journey into the underworld, like Persephone when she's abducted and goes into the underworld. And of course, she will never be the same again. When we go into that liminal space, we have the promise of what we can create or become, but we haven't stepped into it yet. So that's Pluto. And Pluto spends many years in a sign. In this case, Pluto will be in Aquarius for about 20 years until 2043 to 2044 when it makes its transition into Pisces. And the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was 1777 to 78 through 1797 to 98. And that was, of course, a time of not only the American Revolution, but also the French Revolution. Times of rebellion, revolution, idealism, and new ideas, seeking freedom from oppression and oppressive systems, oppressive leaders. Aquarius is an air sign. It's the sign of freedom, authenticity. It has to do with the higher mind, so it deals with shifts in consciousness, shifts in thinking, new ideas, breaking free of old constructs, getting outside the box. Aquarius is the energy of breakthrough, of getting outside the thinking of the past that holds you back. Aquarius is, of course, the sign of the outcast, the exile. It has to do with detachment. It's not about being central or consolidated in the same way that Capricorn is. So Pluto in Capricorn, which was 2008 to 2023 to 2024, that is about consolidation of power, recognizing our limitations, feeling the way that old systems are holding us back. But Pluto in Aquarius now is about detachment. It's about disseminating the power, Pluto, from the concentrated center, authority, centralized figurehead, monarch, etc., and moving outward to the individual minds and the ideas and thinking that come from the masses, the people. And that is where we get the birth of democracy, is with Pluto in Aquarius in the United States. And so this idea that we are created equal, this idea that individuals determine the course of how decisions are made and how government is run and all of that. And of course, American democracy is fraught with contradictions and problems that have to do with who is human, who's included. And when we talk about equality, who are we counting? And of course, major groups of people being left out of that equation. And some of that is what we must rectify with this pass of Pluto through Aquarius. So we have the problems of the past, which we become aware of with Pluto in Capricorn. We become aware of the limitations and where our old thinking has gotten us, the consequences of our limitations and our old thinking, which prompts us then with Pluto in Aquarius to find ways to break free of those limitations. And some of that is about how we think. Aquarius, how we think. Pluto, transformation. So we have this artificial intelligence kind of infiltrating our lives more and more. But where does AI come from? And of course, it comes from humans, right? Humans invented AI, human knowledge. And we use artificial intelligence and computers to basically harness human intelligence, to facilitate access to that intelligence, which, by the way, is very Aquarian, all people having access to knowledge and intelligence. But if we stay in this network, this internet of information from an artificial computer perspective, are we really growing our knowledge? So there's artificial intelligence, but what if the real new intelligence is actually human intelligence? Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius, so it gives us some insight into what Aquarius is up to, what kind of Aquarius we have right now, and it's in Gemini. Gemini is the sign of thinking, ideas, learning, knowledge, intelligence. So not only are Pluto and Uranus both in air signs, both having to do with the mental realm, but Uranus is ruling the sign that Pluto is in. That means the quality of the next 6 to 7 years is shaped by the mental and how we use our minds. And through the end of this decade, the 2020s, we continue to have this potent, magical, triangular alignment of the outer planets. This outer planet waxing sextile triangle, which comes in and out of close to exact for several years, from 2024 to 2029. Those are the years it's closest. So we're in a time of this tremendous evolutionary potential. Doors are opening in unprecedented ways. And what this is saying is that the focus of this process is on the mental realm, ideas, thinking, higher thinking, shifts in consciousness, new solutions to old problems. Our understanding, our knowledge of the world and how it operates could go through some incredible changes. So what does this mean for you and thinking about your leadership and creativity and new beginnings? These are some of the themes we've talked about in the different episodes here. And now we add in this Pluto in Aquarius, and it gives us this recognition that to make the most of this time, we need to question our own thinking. We need to open our minds to what we have yet to know. We are holding in our lives, in our hands, in our bodies, minds, and spirits, this profound doorway that says what about human intelligence? How is human intelligence learning something through you? How are you, the human with the intelligence? How are you using your human intelligence, your capacity for learning, knowing, thinking? How are you using that to be a better human? To be the best you can be in your leadership, in your role as role model to your children, your grandparents, your family, your community, your workplace. Like, as a leader, which we talked about with Jupiter in Leo, that episode, you have a responsibility to be a role model. Not for everything, not for, how Betty down the street does things, but for yourself to do what you do and to be the best person you can be. So part of that is going to involve your capacity for thinking, learning, knowing, shifting your own consciousness by opening your mind to what you do not yet know. And when you have that open mind, which is the invitation of at least the next 5, 6, 7 years as Uranus goes through Gemini, and then Uranus goes into Cancer, and we enter a new phase of the Pluto in Aquarius transformation. But for now, this is what we are doing. We have this amazing capacity, this opportunity to discover who we are and what we're capable of by opening our minds to learning new things. So play with ideas, have conversations, write, journal, take classes, learn new things, share, exchange ideas with others, play with your own thinking, acknowledge what you don't know, acknowledge where the things that you think you know may not be correct, acknowledge where you have something to learn. That is where the awakening is happening. You are in this liquid caterpillar state related to what you thought you knew as a caterpillar, all the things that were true when you were a caterpillar about how the world worked and how to move and find food and hang out with other caterpillars. And I don't know what caterpillars do, but you get the idea. So now you're in the cocoon. You're not a caterpillar anymore. Whatever you knew then, and you still know that stuff, but you also have to let go of that old way of being to open your mind to what that butterfly can discover. And the butterfly knows things that the caterpillar will never know, right? So you are letting go of your old self and the things that old self knew. And in the process, in this liminal space, you are preparing yourself to know the things that the butterfly knows, that only the butterfly can fly and explore dimensions that the caterpillar will never be able to explore. That is where you are at and where we are all at if we acknowledge it. We don't have to acknowledge it. We can cling to our old thinking and we could say to ourselves, no, I'm good. I don't have anything else to learn. But if we do that, we're going to be left behind because there is this doorway opening for human intelligence to advance. You may not be a rocket scientist or a microsurgeon or whatever, but you do know the things that you know about. And those things are something that you can learn about and learn how they work in totally different dimensions, like outside the box. of how you've ever thought about it before. Whatever it is you know about, care about, think about, what your mind is interested in could be blown open. And when you are present to the possibility of how your knowledge can change, you are opening yourself to that possibility that you can know what the butterfly knows after having been a caterpillar. So what is your human intelligence? How are you becoming more intelligent? And what does that look like? And how do you need to let go of what you thought you knew to open to what is there for you to discover? If we're depending on computers and the internet and artificial intelligence for knowledge, we are not expanding into where we are capable of going. Computers are a tool, right? Technology is a tool, but it's not the source of intelligence. You are the source of intelligence. So, what do you have to learn? What are you curious about? What do you want to explore? Where do you want to open your mind and go places you have never been? I'll leave it there for today. Thank you for being here and for following and rating this podcast. I appreciate you, and I will be back next week with more wisdom from the planets. Until next time, be well. This is Marina Ormes. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Astrology Heals: Clarity, Courage, and Creative Power. If you'd like to dive in a little deeper with this material, I invite you to join my member community at transformationalastrology.com. There, we work together to unlock the energy of each unique moon cycle through guided meditations, exercises, and more to support you in your journey to be your best self and to be the best you can be to make a positive difference in the world around you. That's transformationalastrology.com. Check it out. You can also find daily Mood of the Day videos on my YouTube channel at Astrology Heals. See you there.